What's up, boys and girls? It's tea time. I'm here with Giorlando, right off of his top 32 performance at YCS Seattle. Right here is going to show us his deck and maybe some of the strategies that he used to win and some of the combos he used.
This deck doesn't have a lot of combos. It's a grindy deck. It's Dino Rabbit, just like I was playing a lot last format. It's Macro Rabbit more specifically, almost identical to the build that I played for the majority of last format.
What defined the deck specifically?
Macro put in a lot of work. I won a lot of matchups with Macro. I played 4 water decks in Swiss. I played a Ninja deck, which it's actually surprisingly good against because they can't use their trap card and they can't use their Upstart Ninja. I played against an Agent deck and I got it on the first turn game 1. I sided out the next 2 games. On the first turn game 1, it was really strong going first. And I'm not sure if it was good in any other matchups, but it was like good in like 6 or 7 game 1 matchups throughout the tournament. Put in a lot of work in those matchups. Won me handedly a lot of the water decks. So the Macro is, I mean, it's a Macro Rabbit, so it's obviously one of the pivotal cards in the deck. But I can go into a deck profile and kind of explain some things. Obviously the obligatory 6 normal monsters, the 2 copies of Rescue Rabbit and 2 copies of Torgan, and then the 3 copies of Dirac Waiba, 2 Reapers, a Sangin, and a Night Assailant.
Why did you choose Waiba?
Yeah, I was about to go into that. A lot of people like Thunder King, but surprisingly, if you play this deck often enough, and for as long as I have, you'll come to the conclusion, or might come to the conclusion, that the fact that this is a dinosaur outweighs all of the positives that Thunder King brings to the table. Obviously, Thunder King can shut down some decks like the Water deck if you have it, but a lot of the times this deck is just summon a big beater and set a lot of back rows, and in which case, Kabazal, Sabersaurus, Dirac Waiba, and if you ever resolve a Rescue Rabbit with back rows, all accomplish very similar things, and the fact that it's a dinosaur is going to allow you to play out of poor hands like Dirac Waiba and Sabersaurus opening hands, or Dirac Waiba and Kabazal's opening hands, or those type of hands, where you needed the fact that it's a dinosaur to exceed into a Lagi or a Dolga that is stabilized, where the Thunder King might not be as useful as this being a dinosaur. So I've played this deck like 60, 70 matches in YCS, 60, 70 rounds in YCS, and I can't tell you how glad I am to have been playing this card 3 of it, all the events. Like the first time I played this deck was at Atlanta, and I played 3 of these and 2 Thunder Kings. There's just too many normal monsters that you just normal summoned. And I didn't like it, so I cut the Thunder Kings, and ever since then I've just been playing 3 Waibas, and I've never made Thunder King since. So this card is just strictly better than Thunder King in my opinion. And this is another card that's kind of debatable because
I was going to ask about the Reapers.
Like, why don't you play Thunder King over this? Well, in this deck, you have so many monsters you want to normal summon. More specifically, these are the only 2 monsters you can really feasibly set with confidence. I mean, I set Kabazal, Sabersaurus, Waiba. I set all these monsters throughout the game, or depending on the situation. But these are the only 2 monsters that are like really specifically set monsters, saying in kind of borderline. And all the other monsters in this deck are normal summon. Like, you normal summon every single one of these. And if these were Thunder Kings, it would just be more monsters in the deck to normal summon. I like this that the Spirit Reaper lets you alternate between game plans, because there are a lot of times when you need to stabilize with the Spirit Reaper. If you're looking at big monsters, then the Thunder Kings don't get over the big monsters. Thunder Kings poor going second. The Spirit Reapers are good going first, good going second, and they let you stabilize. It's a level 3, it lets you exceed into the Leviators. That comes up quite often with this deck. With the Night Assailant, a lot of the times you can like get a Night Assailant to kill their monster, Reaper hits directly, and then main phase 2 go into a Leviator. I did that a couple times during the tournament. And I run a lot of spell and trap, or a lot of monster removal, like Torrential and Soul Takers, and the Reapers get in a lot of shots. They're really difficult for a lot of decks to get around. It really helps in the mirror match because it lets you stabilize, it lets you build up resources, generate a play where you're able to stick a Lagi or a Dolka in with a lot of back rows. The Reapers buy you time, and they just put in so much work that the Thunder Kings, while good in against the water deck, and the Thunder King does what Thunder King does, but nothing can really replicate what Spirit Reaper does for this deck.
Awesome. Spell lineup.
We have 3 Forbidden Lands. My favorite card in Dino Rabbit has always been my favorite card in Dino Rabbit. I think it's one of the most important cards in Dino Rabbit because it allows Dolka to essentially be a Lagia in terms of not having to negate, or being able to make a Dark Hole or a Soul Taker or a Torrential or something fizzle to a Dolka or a Bottomless or anything like that. It allows your Guibas to get over bigger monsters. It allows you to protect your Lagia when you can summon it in defense mode and not have to negate a Dark Hole with its effect. You can just lance it. It's one of the most important cards in Dino Rabbit. I would play more than 3 if I could. I'd play 4 or 5. 2 copies of Soul Taker. This deck has traditionally had a difficult time getting over bigger monsters, so I've always elected to run some type of quick removal, like Smashing Ground originally, and then Soul Taker ended up outclassing Smashing Ground, so I continue to run the two Soul Takers like last format. Only 2 copies of MST, because going into the tournament this weekend, I was afraid to play the Agent deck and the Agent Trap deck, the Trapless Agents that Simon He's been playing, and I was afraid to play against Chaos Dragons, because that can be a poor matchup, and any other of the decks that don't run a lot of spell or trap cards. So I didn't want to have a lot of dead like MSTs and heavy storms against those decks because those are inherently some of the worst matchups as it is. And in matchups where they do run trap cards, Lance and MST function very similarly. So of course we have the heavy storm. So you really have like 6 cards that are like quote unquote back row removal or protection against back row. So I didn't want to have the third MST, so I thought it would be redundant. And I actually cut down to 2 MSTs at Nationals this year when I ran Dino Rabbit. So I've been an advocate of just the 2 MSTs for a while in this deck.
Plus you have the lances.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
right.
You have like 6 cards that like protect against back rows, plus Judgment, plus Starlight Road. So it's like, it just gets redundant. I mean, it's good against Spear and against the Water deck, but it's poor against all the other trap cards in that deck.
Spoiler alert on Starlight Road.
What?
Spoiler alert on Starlight Road.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's Dino, but they always run.
Of course.
And then I run Dark Hole, Reborn, of course. I mean, this isn't necessarily, of course, because I play the macro, but Reborn's too important. And then just Book of Moon.
How'd you feel about Forbidden Chalice?
I usually always sided 2. But I didn't ever run my side deck this time. I sided 2 throughout all of last format because it was good against Spirit Reaper and good against Snowman Eater game 2 and 3. But I just didn't have room in my side deck, and I felt like I'd be a little bit more, or less prone to run into those monsters.
We'll get to that later, though.
So, yeah.
Those are the traps.
Yeah, double bottomless.
Yep.
This is the exact same trap lineup I played at Nationals, and almost identical to all the trap lineups I played in all the events last format.
Yep.
Double bottomless, double prison, double macro, double warning, double torrential, road, a judgment, and a compulse.
Why not Mirror Force? I used to be a big advocate of Deep Prison. I am now a big advocate of Mirror Force.
I still think Dimensional Prison is better than Mirror Force. I mean, there are times where the opponent just doesn't play around Mirror Force because it's not a very popular card, which is about the only time the Mirror Force is going to be good. Dimensional Prison, I think it's too much better against like your weak matchups, like
windups. I'd say that Mirror Force outclasses.
Yeah, but they go into tiers a lot, and this is like a good out to tiers, as where Mirror Force isn't a good out to tiers. It's not enough.
We have Compulse.
I mean, I do have Compulse, but I'm like, just strictly speaking, like it's really Dimensional Prison versus Mirror Force is like the debate. I mean, I guess you could say Torrential versus Mirror Force is also a debate. But
had you ever considered playing more than one Starlight Road?
Yes, I actually have considered that before, but I didn't think there would be room in the extra deck. No, I would. If I were to put a second road in here, I wouldn't even put the second Stardust because a lot of times it's just there for protection. A lot of times you just want to draw this card because this card is a very useful card in the early stages of the game. When you have a lot of cards at your disposal, it's important. It's really important later in the game when you just like you have like 3 cards to your possession. But
did anyone warning your macro?
Yes, in my feature match in the top.
Okay.
32, and I lost because of that.
Let's see your extra deck real quick and your side deck.
Right. We're about to board, so let's do the side deck over. Double Snowman Eater, pretty self-explanatory what's that good against. For wind-ups, I like to side Gores in a lot of decks, this one more specifically because it's good in the mirror match, good against Chaos Dragons, those type of things. 1 copy of Thunder King. I told a lot of people I wouldn't play this card, but I decided to side one at the last second as the 15th card because the numbers when I was signing in matchups where I took the Guibas out, I needed another monster to normal summon because the numbers in my main deck I had a really low monster count. For Chaos Dragons, the double level limit, 3rd MST, 2 Noblemans for Geargias and like Gravekeepers, double Space Typhoon for Water deck because I was afraid of Goza match and it's good against their Sphere and any other type of rogue deck, a Needle Ceiling, and a Macro Cosmos.
Awesome.
And the extra deck's pretty self-explanatory, double Doka, double Lagia. I play 2 Leviers as opposed to a Levier, and I didn't play Abyss Dweller because I don't play any other level 4s other than the one-sided Thunder King that isn't a dinosaur.
Yep.
So anytime I can go into Abyss Dweller, I could have went into Doka or Lagia. Gaga Cowboy over like Gemini Pro when I used to play, Leviathan, Poplar Imperative, Maestro, Zen Mains, Acid Golem because I still think it's important in this deck. I didn't make it this weekend, but I think it's important in this deck because you need to get over big monsters. Utopia, Tempo, Stardust.
One last question before I end this. Why did you not side... Why is this Mind Control for a matchup with lots of level 4 monsters like Geargia?
Well, in that deck, they don't often... Unless they set...
Over Nobleman of Crossout. Think about that.
Unless they set... Yeah, but it's... Like, Nobleman is always going to be an out to level 4 monster. Like, the level 4 monster that I'm afraid of. The one they're going to... Armor, right? And Mind Control would require me to not only get through a level 4 normal summon, it would require me to be able to Mind Control it without them having a Book of Moon for my level 4. It's just like, I'd rather have it, like, always an alt card that's always an out to their face-down monster. And it removes real play, so they can't use...
Well, I mean, like, Heroes...
Heroes Mind Control is like bait for Gemini Spark. I don't like super polymerization type things. I never really like Mind Control because it's a card that always requires you to have other cards. I'd rather have a card that's consistently good on its own as opposed to a card that requires other things to be going in your favor. Like, you can be a blowout in the mirror match when you like take their dinosaur, but I only played 1 mirror match, so it wasn't that often that it came up.
All right, thanks, Joe.
No problem.